You actually didn't show that any example like that. You provided an English translation. Useless and worthless in this discussion, in an academic point of view. Now, the Qur'an that we have can be traced only to 1300 years to the Prophet. You misconstrue my words again. And concentrate.
Consonantal letters. Since you confirm to us that you do not understand Arabic, you do not speak Arabic, you cannot translate Arabic, you are like this. You look at the graphs and then you see there are the variations. You look at the graph of Surah Hatun, verse 1, Surah 2 and verse 10, you see the original graph is not even one dot. Yet the Quran you are reading today contains many dots. When you don't need to be Einstein, when you look at the graph, you see there are variations in it, and those variations change the meaning. So it confirms, as Muslim claims, there was one and only perfect Quran, not even a dot change. Muhammad discredits them, Abu Bakr discredits them, Omar discredits them, Uthman discredits them. And even your graphs you show the dots, discredit that there is one perfect Quran. I end up having 31 different Arabic Qurans. It is not surprising. Look at the dates of those readings. When those readings, those your 10 official readings, when they have been officialized, what Muhammad had to do with them? Did Muhammad even see them? No, of course not. Muhammad was dead 200 years by the time they are compiled. By the time they took Qur'an to court. So, here's the thing. Umayyin how if Mansur, their Quran were disagree with one another, that makes different Quran from the Quran of Muhammad. The Qurans I have, they are different from the Quran Muhammad Uthman has.
Just one second. Can we have, excuse me. Brothers, if you have another debate, turn your camera that way. If you want this debate, keep listening so that we can all benefit, right? Start? Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you, brothers. Right. So I thank again Hatun for providing an extra chapter, extra surah in the 31 Qur'ans. No, I don't thank her. I take my thanks back because you do not have an extra chapter in any of those 31 Qur'ans. You do not have an extra verse, more or less, in your 31 Qur'ans. That was the debate. What you are telling me, without any documentary evidence that you can see of the Qur'an, you have traditions, Islamic traditions, which talks about this. And our same Islamic traditions talks about how the Qur'an was collectively compiled by all the consensus of the Muslims, and they were transmitted by Ibn Masud and by Ubay bin Ka'b, which you keep forgetting, keep ignoring. The readings are from them, our readings are from them. Don't you realize, Hatun? Now, you talk about Ubay bin Ka'b had 115 and 116, 2 extra chapters. What you don't realize is this: the report that talks about these are surahs are not acceptable. These are isolated reports compared to the mutawatir, mass transmitted reports, compared to the mass consensus of Islamic scholarship. We don't take isolated reports. These reports are deemed inauthentic because of their contradiction to mutawatir reports. This is an established rule in hadith science. If you want to learn about hadith and a tradition, I guess you start with a simple basic text. Now, why did he write? Of course, he would write because the Prophet taught these surahs as a special chapter when to ward off evil, shayateen, excuse me, brothers. The Prophet taught these two. I'm sorry, I'm talking about the more of the time. But during the examples of Ubay bin Ka'ab, these examples are different. What I was meant to say is Ubay bin Ka'ab has the qunut that was Prophet recited and taught that we read in our qunut, in our witr prayers. He wrote them down in his mushaf, like many other companions did. Their personal additions, their personal notes, personal commentaries, the personal exegesis in the Qur'an. And we find, excuse me, brother. Excuse me. Just one second. Brother. Excuse me. You are disturbing me. No, you're disturbing. So you either listen or, okay? Because it's disturbing to talk over someone who's having. Thank you. Yeah. So come over this side, my brother. Thank you. May Allah bless you. Thank you. My times keep running, but give me extra time. Okay? Hang on. Be fair, right? I just interrupted him so that we can continue in a discussion. You can listen to him as well. Right? No. You stop the people. Be a fair debater. So now, as I was saying, this qunut was taught by the Prophet ﷺ. Why? People were writing in their mushaf because they were writing it in their own personal copies. Many companions wrote it. Even we know now in the undertext, the inferior text of Sana, people would write these things. People will write it within the text itself. Now this text says in surah between, it says what? Surah Al-Bara'ah, right? Tawbah. He finished this surah and says, La taqul bismillah. He crossed off bismillah, and the same Quranic text, he says, La taqul bismillah, and start the surah again. Now, La taqul bismillah, do not say bismillah, is not part of the Quran. It is his personal note within the Quranic text. If you read another inferior text within the Sana manuscript, they say, Hadi nihayat of surah, this is the end of this chapter within the same Quranic text. They were writing their notes. They didn't have to write in the margin because it was their personal copy. So when in Codex Sinaiticus, you're talking brother again, in Codex Sinaiticus, we have the letter to Barnabas and Shepherd of Hermas within the same manuscript. You're not going to say, oh, this is part of the biblical canon. This is an extra writing that is within this book. If you're now going to be consistent, you have to accept that that was the biblical canon. Brother, please. Right?
Okay.
Please, yeah?
My turn. Thank you. So, you are asking me to provide extra verse and extra chapters. I have Ubay bin Ka'ab confirmed. Ubay bin Ka'ab's Quran has extra chapters. Muslim's Quran has extra chapters. Author Jeffrey, who you give us the quotation and confirm what he says, confirms that as well. He confirms that as well. You talked about they are the personal copies for Ubay bin Ka'ab. Where did you get that from? Where does Ubay bin Ka'ab says, guys, this is my personal copy. Those two chapters are actually not part of the Quran, lovely Muslims, are not part of the Quran, but they are my personal copies. Where does Muhammad say that to Ubay bin Ka'ab? Nowhere. It's amazing. Muhammad never says that. But your scholars, and you know much better than that. If the Abbas says actually, we don't know if this is part of the Quran or not part of the Quran. Your Islamic tradition tells us verses are eaten by sheep. Your Islamic tradition tells us those verses are missing altogether. 568 verses are missing. So you are asking me to provide extra chapters or less chapters. People provided you in the early century of Islam. You ignored it. Why are you asking me right now? The Quran's behalf in our possessions are sadly, it is very sad for Muslims, disagree with the Uthman
some examples.
59,664.
Examples?
You are talking about, oh, because Quranic text did not have the dots, therefore those are okay. Actually, no, that's not okay. You are just looking at the graph and then saying, those are all consonantal. No, Arabic alphabet. I'm sorry to tell you that, but your Arabic alphabet, your consonantal letters contains dots. Arabic consonantal letters contain dots. You should have known that by now. Just you cannot look at the graph and say, oh, that's all right, because that doesn't have dots. Yes, this has dots. And those dots change the meaning of the word. Claiming there is only one perfect Quran, not even dot change. You didn't like Zakir Naik. You didn't like your Ahmed didn't. You didn't like yourself when you made a claim that not even a dot change. Let me give you some Muslim scholars. Yusuf Ali says same thing. Abdullah Bilan says same thing. And there are lots of other Muslims saying the same thing. Yusuf Ali in the Quran, the current Quran you are reading, confirms that Ubayy bin Ka'b's Quran was biologically different from the Quran Muslims are reciting today. That is different from the Quran Muslims are reciting today. Can you please just answer my basic questions which you have not done so?
Which is? Which one?
So, I would love you to give me the dates for the readings, and they have been officialized. Dates for the readings, and when they have been officialized. How come miracle happened in Islam? How come miracle happened and Muhammad confirmed the half Quran? How come miracle happened and Muhammad confirmed the first Quran? Muhammad was dead for nearly 200 years. By the time Muslim says this goes back to Muhammad. No, Hafs never met Muhammad. Muhammad never met Hafs. They never met. Can you please tell me why do you believe Hafs Quran is reliable? Can you please tell me what is the teacher of Hafs wrote it down that you are sure that is exactly Hafs Quran? There was another point you made. Sorry, I can't remember. There was another point. Oh, sorry, I remember.
You can do that in the next section. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So, this debate became a fiasco. My Arabic knowledge became the part of the debate. You showed me a Quranic text which is dotless or diacriticless and asked me to read it. Are you suggesting seriously no one can read it like scholars? Was Al-Tikulach able to read it? Iqbaluddin, was he able to read it? Of course he was able to read it. He published the facsimile edition of it. And every single letter was transcribed in modern Arabic letters. How was he able to read it? Oh, no one can read it? It's really is interesting, your way of thinking. Just because some non-scholars like myself cannot read it to the full, I have my friends who can read it. Why go to friends? Go to scholars. This is what I'm saying. The scholars can read it. So can Derosh. So can Keith Small, perhaps. Your scholars in Christianity, right? Studying Quranic manuscripts. How are they able to read it? Oh, they can't read it? Are you telling me that Keith Small? Are you telling me that Brew Baker, they can't read it? Then I stand corrected. These people are just waffling. Your Keith Small and all these scholars that are now entered in academia, they can't read any of our Qur'ans. But if you claim that they can do, then there are scholars who can do, even though they're devoid of vowels and diacritics. So the point is taken. The Qur'an that we read today, can we read our Quranic readings within those manuscripts? The example that you showed, the answer is categorically yes, 100%. And these manuscripts have been edited and published as facsimiles, and you can see every page there are transcription. We can read it exactly. And what do the scholars say? they are exactly in conformity for 1300 years. The top copy one, for example, the Qur'an that we read today, not my statement, statement of the scholar Al-Tikulach in the facsimile, exactly that we read from the beginning of Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen to the end of Min al-Jinnati wan Nas. So yes, we can read it, scholars can. Variation changes meanings. Don't you get it, Hatun? If there are variations, you expect them to be, at least to have some changes in meaning. We are not saying they're all identical in meaning. There are slight differences in meaning, but all the differences are not contradictory. They're all complementary. Every single one of the 71 that you put up, and you are unable to engage with even with one, Hatun, so afraid to discuss even one. Every single one of them I can show the meaning are complementary. Some of them have the same meaning which you fail to realize. Now, the dates of the 10 readings. Don't you get it, Hatun? Our Qur'an is transmitted from student to student to student, teacher to student to student. So if I learn my Qur'an without reading anything, I can memorize the Qur'an from my teacher without even looking at the Mus'haf. And he can give me the certificate at the end, Ijaza, saying, yes, this is the Qur'an that I learned from my teacher. And that can all the way go back to Hafs and his teacher Asim and his teacher Sulami and his teacher Ibn Mas'ud and Ubay ibn Ka'ab and their teacher Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who received from Angel Jibreel alayhi salam, who received from Allah. We have this golden, direct, successive change. Your dates are irrelevant because every generation the Quran has been taught like this. You don't need even in a written form. How did the blind, before the Braille came into existence, learn the Quran? They memorized it from their teacher. Their teacher memorized from their teacher, and so on. So the Quran has been accurately preserved in all of this recitation that we consider mutawatir, these 10 readings. Yes, we have the direct link to the Prophet. You fail to realize this, even though you know it's there in our traditions. I have them in a graph form, if you want, so wish to see them. Now, I asked you to provide evidence for your 31 Qur'ans are 31 different Qur'ans. I didn't ask you to go to our Islamic sources, what Ubay ibn Ka'ab and Abdul Mas'ud said. Because you claim you now have in your position 31 different Qur'ans. So in your 31 different Qur'ans, where are the extra ayah? Where are the less than the one ayah? Where are the extra surah? Where are the less than one surah? Where are they?
Shine us, shut up! Show us, yeah, show us! Show us to shut up! Ask you this question 10 times. Show us! Show us!
According to lovely Muslims, that is one perfect Quran, not even a dot change. And thank you very much, Mansur, for confirming us that actually it has changed and they are different. It changed the meaning of it.
Okay, examples. Half examples.
Thank you for confirming Quran does not go back to Muhammad 1300 years. Muhammad goes back to 1400 years. So your Quran has got nothing to do with Muhammad. Even the current Quran has nothing to do with Muhammad. Here how the memorization works. You trust people's memorization. People memorize as they read it. They look at the paper, they read it, they memorize it. That's why they write it down. You never been to mosque. I've been to mosque where people were teaching how to memorize the verses. You got scripture in front of you. You read it, and you read it, and you read it, and you read it until you
Arabic Quran.
Thank you for confirming. Thank you for confirming that Quran throughout centuries have been corrupted, contains many textual variations. Thank you for confirming. The Quran you are reading is only 1,300 years old, and it does not go back to Muhammad 1,400 years. It does not go back to Muhammad. You talked about lovely and golden chains. It's sad to say though, those chains are broken, those chains need to be fixed, and it doesn't look like they are golden chains. They cannot be golden chains.
I wrote the Bible. That's basically.
Can you please?
I wrote the Bible.
Why are you so afraid of those dating for the readings? Why are you so afraid for those dates? Since you're afraid, let's just invite the world. What are the datings for those? Guys, remember, in 9th century, people had already 25 different Arabic Qurans. In 10th century, people had 50 different Arabic Qurans. In 9th century again, 22 different Arabic Quran was exist. In 930s, 960s, 26 different Arabic Quran was exist according to Nadim, who is the librarian. Here are the dates, which Mansur is so afraid to talk about the date of the readings. So let's start with the dating for the house. 800 dating for the house is 805. You do the months. How many years that's after Muhammad? How many years? Nearly 200 years after death of Muhammad. Hafs Quran you are reading today has got nothing to do with Muhammad, and for sure Mansur confirmed for us with it, showing us the textual variations. It has nothing to do with the Uthmanic Quran as well. Also, in your this golden chain, I think we have to call that bronze or aluminium, something else. It cannot be golden chain. Can you please tell me, why did you pick the Hafs Quran?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The Khalifa cult, the submitters cult, they do not accept the last verse of Surah At-Tawbah, and she showed an English translation. So if they consider Quran to be English, they are not even worth discussing. Do they have a Quran which has Arabic Quran less than this translation, which you should provide? And you actually didn't show that any example like that. He provided an English translation. Useless and worthless in this discussion, in an academic point of view. Now, the Quran that we have can be traced only to 1300 years to the Prophet. You misconstrue my words again. I gave one example of how a particular scholar was to read this manuscript without diacritics, without vowels, and this particular manuscript, he dated it to that point. It doesn't mean we don't have anything earlier. I mean, certainly someone has a comprehension problem here. Chains are broken. What evidence have you have? What evidence do you have that our chains are broken? We have all the chains which are all directed to the Prophet. I have them all here. What evidence do you have? You provided what? Zilch. Now, 8th century, there are 25, 9th century, 25 to 50 Arabic Qur'ans. Ibn Nadim's list. You are going back again, traditions, excuse me. You're going back to traditions again, both of you interrupting. You're going back to traditions without substantiating with any evidence that yes, there is this different Quran. Thank you. So I asked you again, the debate was, you talk about there are 26 different Arabic Qur'ans. Don't you say that? I came along to debate that subject. I didn't come along to debate the manuscripts in Sana'a or the manuscripts in Paris. So you keep shifting the debate. Within this 31 Quran that you said are different, you have so far failed miserably, but still chance, still hope, to provide within the 31 Qurans that you have An extra ayah, more or less. An extra chapter, more or less. So here is my tick list. My tick list. Are there 114 chapters in the 31 Qur'ans, more or less? She provided no evidence to the contrary. So it's still the same Qur'an. Are there any different surahs? She provided nothing. Still the same one Qur'an. A surah order different between this 31 Qur'ans? She provided nothing. Still the same Qur'an. A verse text more or less within the 31 Qur'ans? She provided nothing. Still the same Qur'an. Any of these ayahs that we cannot read in the manuscripts? She provided nothing. Same Qur'an. You can have it. Yeah. Did she provide 3 examples? Why I chose 3? You know why? 3 examples of the differences between the Hafs Qur'an. She says there's more than one Hafs. She says there's more than one Warsh. Did she provide any differences between the Hafs, between them? Any differences between the Warsh? So far, zilch. So in my tick list, she provided no evidence to substantiate the claim that the Qur'an is more than one. So I stand here making this debunking of your claim that there is only one Qur'an. There is only one text. There is one Qur'an the Prophet taught in the multiform way of recitation, as I demonstrated from the examples after examples after examples. So you, excuse me, you talked about a sheep, brother. Brother, you're interrupting again. Cameramen, please take your patience. A sheep eating the verses. Did no one else know this? Of course they knew this verse. It didn't disappear from existence. But what you don't realize this, we believe, most of us scholars believe in the concept of abrogation of this verse. So even if the sheep ate it or whatever, or lost, that is not going to be part of the Qur'an. The Prophet ﷺ left exactly the Qur'an that he recited twice in the last year of his death. And that Qur'an is what we read today. So far what we have seen, we see the example of one Qur'an of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam recited in different recitations, but they all trace back to our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam.
Thank you again. Thank you very much.
It is amazing. It is amazing that Mansur confirms that there were multiple Qur'ans. There were the multiple Qur'ans, and Muslims are so happy about that. There were multiple Qur'ans at the time of Muhammad, which confirms that Mansur stood here and then said there is only one perfect Qur'an that discredits Mansur. When Muslims say there is only one perfect Quran, they are discrediting Muhammad, they are discrediting the Caliphs, they are discrediting the Islamic tradition. There was never and never one perfect Quran. You talked about the golden chains. I am sad to say that golden chains become an aluminium chain and it needs to be fixed. It's broken and it is fixed. Explain me who is Hafs. Explain me what do you know about him? What do you know about his teacher? Why are you so scared of answering those basic questions? Why are you so scared of talking about basic dates for the readings? You are talking about the surah orders. You know, at the time of Muhammad, they were not even in that order. At the time of Muhammad, they were not in the order. The verse sheep eating, it is very, very sad news for Muslims. Allah confirms in the Quran, He is going to protect the Quran. Surah 15 verse 9, Surah 6 verse 115. Allah confirms He is going to protect His word, yet amazing sheep turns up out of the blue, comes and eats the verses, yet those verses are not in the Quran. Your power questioning those, but you are questioning others. If that, let's say, sake of the argument, if the verse which sheep eat it shouldn't abrogate it first, why do you have other abrogated verses in the current Quran? Why did you put them, yet you fail to put this verse which is eaten by sheep? Can you just explain to me, who is this Hafs guy? How can you trust Hafs while he borrowed the book and he never bothered to return that book? How can you trust him? How can you be sure that his chains confidently goes back to Muhammad while you know they've got nothing written? They've got nothing written. We know Ubay bin Ka'b is in the chain of Hafs, and we know Ubay bin Ka'b's Quran was different. That was a different. Yet you put a bunch of the list of the names in the Islamic tradition and tells us that's the golden chain. No, that's a broken aluminium chain, needs to be fixed. That's not a golden chain. So, yes, there are 31 different Arabic Qurans. Yeah. There are different Arabic Qurans. It's not because I say so. It's because Quran itself says so.
Okay. Here we go. Go ahead.
I know Mansur doesn't know Arabic. He doesn't understand Arabic. He cannot translate Arabic. He will be failing to read them probably. Maybe he can read them, but he cannot understand them.
Did he just read the Quran for you?
Here is the thing.
My friend,
Here we go.
Those are the Qurans. They all name differently. So this is the Quran of Al-Susi. That is the Quran of Al-Susi.
This is a picture. That's nice.
This is the Quran of Abu Jafar.
Allah.
Show us the variation in them.
That's the Quran of Yaqub.
Why are you showing colors? Show the variations.
I can put your picture.
And it is all 31 of them. You are seeing all the pictures because every time when I bring the Qurans down, I have to protect myself and I have to protect my Qurans. That's why you are seeing the pictures.
Yeah, the
Quran pictures of the cover she showed, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, it says very clearly, Quran, bi riwayat of this. In the readings of, in the riwayah of this. This is what we believe. The Quran has been translated in this riwayah. Excuse me. In these readings. So yes, what she hasn't shown is where the differences of chapters and verses are. I kept telling her it's the same, and she keeps saying it's different and the evidence is not provided. Here is your golden opportunity, Hatun, to provide the differences. I've already done the tick list.
Show the difference.
I've already done the tick list. You still have some chance to untick it. Now, you talk about who is Hafs. Hafs, we have his biography. We know when he lived. We know when he died. We know his teachers are. We know what was told about him. Like Yahya bin Ma'in says, الرواية الصحيحة التي رويت عن قراءة عاصم. رواية Abu Umar Hafs bin Sulaiman. The correct, authentic transmission riwayah is the reading of Asim. You have other, like Dhahabi. He says, أما في القراءة فالثقة ثابت ضابط لها بخلاف حاله في الحديث. In hadith he may be weak because he wasn't concerned with hadith, but in Quran he is thiqa, trustworthy, ضابط. Is a totally upright, so there is no problem with this Quranic recitation. He is totally perfect in his recitation. His memory is perfect, his recitation is perfect. We have examples of this testimony of, see me brothers, example of testimonies of Hafs. You mentioned, not realizing from your teachers who misunderstood the Islamic text, that Hafs, the same Hafs, borrowed a book and didn't even return it. This was another Hafs. Go and check the traditions carefully. The scholars have responded clearly. This Hafs and that Hafs is not the same. So you're conflating the names and you think, oh, it must be the same person. Go and read more about it and you learn that your superficial reading of your sources are not going to help you. Now, you talk about Mansurs don't know Arabic, and yet he was able to read your Arabic Bible. He was able to read the other Qur'an. What I said is, I may not read the vowel-less text of the Mus'haf, the manuscript, properly. It doesn't mean I may not know how to read it. I don't want to make a mistake in reading the Qur'an. That is my reservation. If you want, I can demonstrate that it's easy to learn. You can even learn it, like Keith Small and others. I'm sure they have learned. So, coming back to the debate again. Qur'an. Where is the different chapters and verses within the 31 Qur'ans?
Show us.
Did you show one example? No. You keep on running to Ubay bin Ka'ab, running to before. The debate was not that. We can arrange another debate if necessary. The debate today is your claim. We have 26 Qur'ans. Isn't that in the YouTube? Right. Now it's 31. So this 26 Qur'an is what I want to debate you with. Where is the extra chapter or less? Where is the extra verse or less? I provided, while you were running away from providing even single example, lots of examples, and I am able to do all 71 if time permits, showing you how this is from the one same Qur'an and the meanings how they're complementary. You keep avoiding the subject matter of the debate. What are we debating? How good my Arabic is? Or is there one Qur'an or many Qur'ans? You need to refocus in the debate title, Hatun. Right. So now let's go back again. There are so many verses that are removed. What did I tell you? We believe in the abrogation. That the Qur'an the Prophet left behind is the Qur'an is intended for us, for posterity. The Prophet left this Qur'an, and that is the Qur'an we Muslims believe in. Earlier on, there may have been revelations that Allah sent and He abrogated. This is our belief, because Allah changes the people depending on their circumstances. He may leave certain verses, even they're abrogated, or take them away. If the Ayat al-Rajam, the stoning verse, was part of the Qur'an, this is one opinion, and there's another opinion, it was never a part of the verse, and we have examples to demonstrate that. It was abrogated. So what are you talking about? The Prophet left the Qur'an, and that is the Qur'an that we believe and we read. Oh, subhanAllah.
Why are you so afraid of answering my questions?
Which one? Which one?
Answer my questions. Do not talk over me while I am talking, because you are giving me right that I can talk over you while you are speaking. So here's the thing. When Muslim says they are just different readings, actually what they are saying is they are different versions of the Quran. It is the same. When British people say, oh, that's very interesting, they are actually saying that was rubbish. It is the same what Muslims are doing. When they say, oh, it's just a reading, they are failing to tell you, actually, they are different versions of the Quran, because Qurans have the different names.
Can you show us
when you compare the verses, you see verses are different. They are not only different from Hafs Quran, they are different 100%.
Can you show us one example?
Exactly.
From Uthman's Quran.
Open claims.
They are 100% different from Uthman's Quran. Why I say that? Because Uthman's Quran did not have the dots. Mansur, you already told us there were the multiple Qurans, there were the multiple versions of the Quran.
Never said that.
Yes, it is revealed to Muhammad in multiple versions. It was multiple texts. Yet today you still stand
it's in the video. I never said something.
There was only
نرجع فأبهجنا يا شعلة نور والله يا ديمة خير وعطاء ويمام نقاء
كن سعيدا كن فريدا عش بفخر في الحياة لا تبالي فالمعالي بالتحدي لا